The family of a man involved in a violent clash with police is speaking out after he was left hospitalized. The incident happened a few days after Christmas in a York Southwestern apartment building. The province's Special Investigations Unit is now looking into it. Now, the family says the man struggles with mental illness and that the situation wasn't handled properly. Dale Manukduk has this story.
David Honore covers the tears streaming down his face, thinking about his brother Alban Francis, who was hospitalized after an encounter with police.
I can imagine that when I see my brother in that condition, I couldn't imagine that was my brother.
At around 7:30 on the morning of December 28th, Toronto police responded to this Woolner Avenue apartment building after a man was attacked with a staple gun. Francis's neighbor and friend was the victim. He called 911. The family says Francis had previous mental health episodes that police were involved in and that his condition was known to them. Francis is diagnosed with schizophrenia.
My brother was very sick. He don't harmful to nobody, nice to everybody. You understand what I'm saying? But the kind of force the policeman put on my brother, they should not put that force on my brother. They could have handled that in a better position.
Toronto police say they were not responding to a person in crisis and received a second call for a person with a gun at the same location. The province's Special Investigations Unit, which looks at police conduct where someone was seriously injured or killed, is now investigating what happened after police arrived. The SIU says officers found Francis in the hallway and that he approached them with a staple gun. One officer fired a sock round and struck Francis, and several others tried to taser him. That's when Francis barricaded himself in his apartment. Another officer fired their gun but missed. The emergency task force was deployed and tried to negotiate before breaching the unit, where more tasers were fired as well as a less lethal firearm. Francis was arrested and taken to hospital with serious injuries. His family says he was left unconscious and on life support.
I broke down in tears. I was crying when I see lifeless on the bed, lying with a tube in his mouth.
He may lose the right eye because his face, the right side of his face, is totally damaged. Not only did they try to subdue him with tasers multiple times, electrical tasers, they tried to subdue him with rubber shots and also bullets as well. And there's evidence that bullet did make contact to his face because according to the medical records, there is bullet fragments in his face.
Francis's niece says he's been upgraded to stable condition. His family doesn't know if he's on Toronto Police's vulnerable persons registry, a list that indicates to first responders that someone might require certain care when interacting with. We do know that no crisis intervention team was deployed to the scene. And while the SIU completes its investigation of police conduct, Francis has been charged with multiple counts of assault. His family hopes that no one with mental illness has an experience like the one that happened here. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
A man is in hospital after a shooting in Scarborough late Thursday night. Toronto police now investigating whether it's yet another instance of violence connected to recent turf wars in the tow truck industry. Greg Ross has the details.
It happened just before midnight. Police say shots were fired at the intersection of Lawrence Avenue and Greenholme Circuit in Scarborough. A man in his 20s was rushed to hospital in life-threatening condition with gunshot wounds.
Very concerned because you don't know where to stand, where to be protected, and especially late at night.
Left at the scene, a white pickup truck with 4 bullet holes through the passenger side window. Police say they are still searching for suspects and that a dark-colored vehicle was seen fleeing the scene after the shooting. Police are looking into whether or not there is a connection between this shooting and the tow truck industry. There was a decal on the side of the truck with the logo for a tow trucking company.
Well, I'd say it's a concerning situation, and that's why we've devoted resources to combating illegal acts in the towing industry.
Violence in the tow trucking industry has been a huge problem for law enforcement, not just in Toronto, but right across the province.
There is a small percentage of them that are taking advantage of people and opportunities to make money, and they're directly linked and fund organized crime.
If last night's shooting is connected in some way to the tow truck industry, it would be the third in 48 hours. In fact, there was another one in Scarborough earlier in the day yesterday. 2 victims were sent to hospital after gunshots near Markham Road in Passmore. On Wednesday, another man in his 20s was sent to hospital. He had been shot at a tow truck yard near Markham and Finch. According to Toronto police, there were 62 tow truck related shootings in the city in 2024. They say that makes up about 13% of all firearm discharges last year. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Peel police are investigating after 2 people were found dead in the area of Credit Valley Road and Erin Mills Parkway early this morning. So far, police are being tight-lipped about their investigation, but it appears to be focused on a home. One neighbor telling CBC News that police had been to the residence before.
I was not surprised. Like I said, the police have been here over the last couple of years. They've been 3, 4, maybe 5 times.
It's not anything that anybody would ever want to learn about on any given morning, right?
Police say they were called to the area for a sudden death at about 5 a.m. A Peel forensics vehicle and a number of police cars could be seen parked on a small residential street. Neighbors say a man and woman in their 50s live in the home. Police have not confirmed those details, saying only that the situation is sensitive. Toronto police say a man found with life-threatening injuries after a fire early this morning near Moss Park was also stabbed. Toronto Fire and police responded to a fire at an apartment complex on Sherbourne and Shooter just before 11 a.m. The man was rescued from the building and rushed to hospital. No other injuries were reported. A man is dead after falling through the ice near Toronto Centre Island. It's believed it happened while he was skating on Lake Ontario, something residents in the area say is quite common at this time of year. As Tyreek Reed reports, police are now reminding people to take extra precaution in wake of this tragedy.
I've been here for 14 years and it's the most wonderful community, and this is really tragic for everybody.
Residents on the Toronto Islands are in disbelief after a 70-year-old man fell through ice on Lake Ontario and drowned. Toronto police say the man may have been skating.
This heartbreaking incident serves as a reminder of the dangers of entering onto ice-covered bodies of water.
Police say it happened near Lagoon Road and Centre Island Parkway. Toronto Fire was called to the area just after 8 o'clock on Thursday night after he was reported missing. Officers say land crews, the fireboat, and police marines searched the area, including an area around a hole in the ice, but couldn't locate him at the time. His body was eventually found in the water Friday morning. This resident says he knew the victim.
I think that the island will go through a grieving process over this, because to my mind, it's the first person who's drowned on the island, certainly in many decades. I've been living here for over 30 years, and it's the first time anything like this has happened. It's very rare, very unusual.
Locals in the area say this is the time of year many begin to skate on the lake, but after this tragedy, some say they're wary and thinking more about safety precautions.
I can't believe someone actually fell through the ice. That's awful. I was not planning on skating on any lakes or rivers anytime soon, and I definitely won't be.
I think there'll be more of an effort to make sure that when you go skating, you go with other people. Maybe that you take a few ice picks with you so that if you go through, you can pull yourself out.
It's a tragedy Toronto police say they're hoping others can avoid.
We urge the public to stay off the ice, as it can break unexpectedly and put you at serious risk in the freezing cold water. If you must venture near the ice, always wear a safety vest and take every possible precaution.
Police have not released the identity of the man. Tyreek Reed, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police say the service has seen more fraud reports in recent years, but data also shows that investigators are closing fewer fraud cases. Tyler Cheese spoke with experts about what you can do to protect yourself while police struggle to keep up.
They took 2,000 cash out of the machine on my debit card.
This man experienced a taxi scam last summer.
I went to pay. I tapped and they said, "Oh, can you insert it?" And then they said, "Oh, there's something wrong. Something that's happened with a credit card. Can you try your debit card?" And I did, and it said it worked, and gave me back my card.
A couple days later, he noticed the cards the driver gave him back weren't his and money had been taken from his accounts. He made an online police report about the incident, but says he never heard from an investigator after that.
So obviously there doesn't seem like there's a lot of motivation on a lot of parties to do anything about it.
Recent data from Toronto Police shows the number of fraud investigations the service has closed dropped by 83% between 2015 and 2023. A police spokesperson also told CBC Toronto 17,000 fraud reports were made in 2024, totaling almost $400 million. That's up by 20% from the year before. Now, fraud experts say people need to take steps to better protect themselves.
It all boils down to safety first and making sure everything's properly secured in your financial world. It can be as simple as changing your password. We keep on hearing that, but very few of us do it. Changing your PIN code on your banking ATM card, all the stuff that grants people access, check it and change it regularly. Like make it a part of your monthly or bi-monthly checkup.
Aside from police, fraud victims also have the option of opening a civil case, but that can present its own challenges.
All a judge can do in this situation is say whether or not you been defrauded, but you have to sue the right person, and many times you won't know who that is. So then you have to take an additional step, maybe to get the internet provider to provide you the IP address.
Toronto Victim Services also offers support without needing to file a police report.
If you are a victim of fraud and essentially what you want is, rather than an investigation, you really want to focus on the emotional impact that that's had, or even potentially the financial impact that that's had, we're able to provide that with no strings attached.
Hello, you've reached Victim Services.
The service has a 24-hour crisis hotline that victims can call for more information. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
The TTC board approved its 2025 budget today. The spending plan promises to invest in improving service without adding costs for commuters. While there is an optimistic outlook for the year ahead, the agency still needs long-term financial sustainability. Sarah McMillan takes a look.
The TTC is back.
TTC Board Chair Councillor Jamal Myers is pitching 2025 as a year of renewal for the TTC. The board is asking the city for a 6.5% increase in funding in its latest budget, promising service improvements. After a difficult 2024 with fluid leaks and massive disruptions, better maintenance, which should mean fewer subway slow zones.
As a daily TTC rider myself, I share your frustration with the subway slow zones. That's why this money will be spent on things like maintaining our subway tracks so that our system never again experiences 33 simultaneous slow zones at once.
The TTC is also promising to reduce wait times back to pre-pandemic levels and improve station cleanliness. It's also freezing fares for the second year in a row.
Some item before you today is honestly a breath of fresh air.
I'm happy in particular to see an effort to restore off-peak service standards that were cut a few years ago. And I'd be remiss not to mention the fare freeze, which gives some much-needed cost relief to riders.
Still, the agency is facing significant challenges. Nearly half of the TTC's operating budget comes from the city's tax base and 38% from fares.
That's not how big cities work all around the world, where they have higher levels of government, whether it be provincial, state, or federal, that contribute an ongoing, sustainable, and predictable flow of funds to operate their transit systems. Until we have that, each year we're going to scramble to figure out how to run this system, and that's not acceptable.
The city is getting provincial funding through the New Deal agreement negotiated by Mayor Chow and Premier Ford, but that's set to expire in 2027. The city is banking on negotiating a new agreement, but if it doesn't, the cost to make up a potential funding gap through the fare box?
It'd be roughly about $1.50 increase to make up the $239 million.
Yeah, that's not surprising, although that is a rather heart-stopping number.
There's also the matter of turbulent politics in Ottawa, but Myers says he's not concerned.
There's an NDP mayor, there's a PC premier, and there's a Liberal prime minister, and they all see the value in transit. Like, this is not a partisan issue.
Myers says it will take some time for riders to notice all the improvements, but says there will be a real difference.
This will be remembered as the budget that the TTC got its groove back.
Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. York police have issued a Canada-wide warrant for an 18-year-old man in connection to a home invasion investigation on Monday.
We considered him to be a violent individual, not to be approached, and to be considered armed and dangerous.
Doniel Josiah Levy Porter of Brampton is wanted on multiple charges. Police say they were called to a home in the area of Sir Sanford Fleming Way, just west of Dufferin Street, around 4 in the morning. Officers say 5 suspects broke through the back door. The residents confronted them before a gun was fired, wounding one of the residents. He was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. 4 other suspects also remain outstanding. After pitching a new vision for GO Transit yesterday, Premier Doug Ford continued his crusade against gridlock today, reigniting speculation that the province could buy back Highway 407. Lane Harrison has more.
Rumors of a provincial Highway 407 buyback have been swirling for months. For some drivers, that would mean big savings.
Sometimes paying this amount of money per month, it might be a better choice than going on 401 with lots of traffic.
Yeah. And so what do you think about the idea then of the province buying the 407 back?
That would be wonderful.
Premier Doug Ford says it's something the government is considering.
We'll hopefully acquire that. I'm not saying we are, but hopefully to alleviate the congestion on the 400 series highways.
The highway was sold off by the province in the 1990s, but it's often clear lanes have become a topic of conversation with the 401 so congested. The Premier wants to meet with the 407's owner to look at different options for the highway.
There's the full buyout option in one form or another that drops the tolls. For the province to take over the highway and drop the tolls. That highway was sold for around $3.1 billion. It's now estimated to be worth somewhere in the 30 billion to 30 billion plus range. So that's a lot of money for all Ontarians to be spending.
That expert says dropping tolls is like a sugar high. It'll get people moving in the short term, but over time, the 407 would fill up like the 401, and drivers have mixed feelings about the idea.
And I think that if it's a toll route, it makes sense. Yeah. Because like you're paying for the convenience of speed.
I think everyone is gonna be happy if this will happen, because in summertime when I'm very busy, 407 sometimes cost me over $400-500 a month, and that's more than my insurance payment.
Part of what drives congestion on the 401 is the number of trucks using it, and the industry says it has no choice.
As of now, the highway as a private entity prices almost all trucks out of the market. And effectively, most trucks other than the highest value expedited goods effectively have no access to it. The industry would be supportive of something like that if it were to become a public highway or were to be in public hands with tolls that are reasonable.
When Ford might meet with the 407 is unclear, and the Premier says he's not sure how willing they'd be to sell. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
The Premier was also in Cambridge today for a ribbon cutting, announcing that renovations at Cambridge Memorial Hospital are now complete.
Yes, we're putting unprecedented amount of money into healthcare. I think it's over $33 billion more, and there's no better way to spend money, no matter if it's infrastructure or investing in people, than what we're doing across the province right now.
400,000 square feet was redeveloped to build a new patient care tower at the hospital. It features state-of-the-art facilities to improve care for patients requiring emergency care or life-saving surgery. The province is investing over $200 million this year to fund infrastructure upgrades and repairs at 129 hospitals and 58 community healthcare facilities across Ontario. A familiar face is taking over as head coach of Toronto FC. Robin Fraser will be leading TFC as the 15th head coach in club history. The team announced his hiring today, and he's expected to be reintroduced to the media at a press conference next Wednesday. Fraser returns to TFC after previously serving as an assistant coach from 2015 to 2019, winning the MLS Cup with the Reds in 2017. He most recently finished a 4-year stint as head coach of the Colorado Rapids. All right, Colette joins me now, and a little bit of snow as we head into the weekend, and some slightly warmer temperatures as well, right? I like that.
Yeah, as this is pushing in, it's changing the wind direction, bringing in some slightly milder conditions, but we have to contend with Yeah, a bit of snowfall and some accumulations that we'll be seeing as well and experiencing. A lot of this kind of largely done, though, as we go into Saturday. So first of all, just showing you some of those temperatures, like our daytime highs from today. Yeah, this was an improvement. -3 for Toronto, Oshawa -2, the warm spot. Windsor -4 and Sarnia high of -3 as well. We do have those winter weather travel advisories. They'll end sooner for southwestern Ontario than what you're going to see along the shores of Lake Ontario, just because of the timing of the system as it's moving through. So by tomorrow morning, likely just some flurries kind of lingering into southwestern Ontario. You may still have some snow, though, up the Bruce Peninsula. And we're talking about some enhancement because of that wind flow as well. So in some of these areas, Pickering off towards almost to Kingston, say around Napanee, through that region, close to the lake, you could see, instead of the amounts I'm going to be showing you, maybe almost twice that. So I'll get into that in just a moment, but just showing you the timing first of all. And by tomorrow morning, see how there's not much left. A little bit of light snow kind of here and there, just some pockets, and then some flurries and a lot of cloud cover. And then even that starts to erode into the afternoon. You should get into some sunny breaks into southwestern Ontario. And with any luck, you know, the sun's setting at 5 p.m. now for Toronto. So might even get a little bit of sun mixing in with that cloud at the very end or tail end of the afternoon. Now, another system is going to be approaching for Sunday. This one tracks a little bit further north, but I'd say Sunday night into Monday, a little bit of a dusting coming back at us then. But just dealing with what's happening through tonight into early tomorrow morning, in most cases, it is a widespread 5 centimeters with some of that enhancement you see towards Oshawa, perhaps 7, but it could be as much as 9 or 10 in some of these areas and into the snow belt as well. Overnight tonight, these temperatures remain kind of where they are now. If anything, we're not seeing much of a change, but what happens is they do warm up tomorrow. Now, the winds we're going to lose that southwesterly flow, but still a high of 0, so we won't even talk about a wind chill by tomorrow afternoon, and a couple of days where we get to enjoy those milder temperatures, and then that Arctic snap comes back by Tuesday.
The freezing mark, I like it. We'll take it. Thanks so much, Colette. That's all the time we have tonight. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night and weekend.